You're listening to the PRO Media Network. The next level in entertainment.
Get ready, it's time for the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, telling you everything you need to know about the Saints, Pelicans, and a whole lot more.
Welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. And we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports family. I'm Big Q, and on podcast 221 on the Sports Coma, we'll be recapping the Saints' final, that's right, the last day of training camp. Preseason is nearing an end as the final preseason game comes as the Los Angeles Rams and the Saints face off in California at 7 o'clock on Thursday. So in this episode, we'll be recapping the final day of camp among other topics. And before we get going, I'd like to thank everybody, all the new and established listeners, for giving us a shot on the Sports Coma today. Thank you guys for listening. It's been a very interesting preseason, to say the least, in hopes of a potential second Super Bowl victory as this very, very anticipated season is about to get underway really soon. So in podcast 221, we'll be covering that final day. We'll also recap the question of the day. Of course, you know about the Sports Coma's new question of the day segment where we pose questions to our listeners and ask you guys your opinions, and all replies will be read on the show. Of course, the last replies will be read from the last question we asked about, will cornerback Marcus Williams take PJ Williams' job? We'll read some of those replies. Also, we'll give you the new question of the day. Other topics is we'll give you 3 guys on the bubble for the Saints. Of course, you guys could think of a handful of guys that's on the bubble. We'll give you 3 of them. We'll also have our Who That Is segment, as we will showcase wide receiver Austin Carr. That's right. We'll talk about Austin Carr, give you a little information on him on the offense. And then, of course, we also always highlight a defensive player, which would be defensive lineman Woody Hamilton. We'll also spotlight him. Also, we'll have Coach Payton chime in on his thoughts on the final day of the 2018 preseason camp. We'll have Coach Payton's thoughts on it. And without further ado, we'll get going on the Sports Coma podcast 221. Very interesting preseason. Very interesting. All of them have their own little special little categories, but 2018 was a camp with a lot of high expectations. Not as many questions about what we could do as opposed to having everybody pick the Saints to be a Super Bowl representative, or be the NFC representative. Not too many years we get that. We always get hit with the defenses being too bad or what have you. But the Saints went overboard to address the issue of pass rushers. And like we said before, is the idea that we perceive on the show is that the Saints are going to come at teams on defense with waves of pass rushers. You have Davenport there. You have Okafor on the other side of Cam. Then, of course, there are other guys that might make the team as well. They made an emphasis to do that, so big ups to them on that. Let's go into the final day of camp, give you who wasn't there in attendance. Of course, offensive lineman Teron Armstead was missing. Manti Te'o, JT Gray, the defensive back, and tight end Michael Human were not at the final day of camp. Now, Michael Human has been absent for all of the preseason games. I don't know how serious his injury is. I don't know if the Saints are just shelving him to the season starts. But, you know, I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, he in the last year of his contract anyway. They already have a guy that can do what he does in Trey Edmonds, Zach Line. So in my football brain, I'm saying to myself, I'm thinking who man could be up out of here. And plus the Saints really like Dan Arnold, even though he's young, but he is probably one of the most exciting tight ends, if you think about it, that we had here in some times. offseason started after the draft when they picked up people like Deion Yelder, who I believe is a practice squad player for the Saints. Dan Arnold wasn't a guy much thought of. His size was unique, but when he made the transition to tight end, he really kind of excelled and pushed himself ahead. And I'm thinking if they don't keep 4 tight ends, which is not out of the realm of possibility, they could keep 4, but it could be a swap with Who-Man out and Arnold in. To getting back to camp, wide receiver Key Kirkwood hoping to make a spot, him and Arthur Moulette, who is also looking to make the active roster. Now, the Saints practice indoors for the final practice of camp, and they spend the majority of the time working on the running plays after the defense couldn't get a stop against the Chargers. They were just gashed. And so the Saints were really focusing on that aspect of the defense, trying to key in on the final game of preseason to plug that leaky run defense against the Chargers. They also shuffled the linebackers around. They moved them around with Manti Te'o not available in camp. They had Alex Anzalone starting at the middle linebacker in the base defense, with Klein on the strong side, Double D on the weak side. And then when they went to the nickel package, they put Alex Anzalone and Double D on the first team. And that's a change now, because usually it was Double D and Klein, but instead it was Alex Anzalone and Double D, or Double A and Double D, if you get the drift. So AJ Klein, he moves in the nickel defense to the bench. People saying, well, Q, that's not a good sign. I still, all these linebackers are interchangeable for New Orleans. All of them interchangeable. Some do more than others, but I'm still not giving up on AJ Klein. I still believe that the Saints have a role for this man. Even though he's not the best in coverage, I agree with y'all. He's not the best in coverage. Alex Anzalone, Double D, way better in coverage, and the Saints recognize that. But he still is a guy that will contribute a lot in the linebacker room. You better believe it. Drew Brees, trying to get on the same page with rookie wide receiver Traquan Smith, called upon to run an out route. The problem was Patrick Robinson took the route away, meaning that he knew what he was going to do. So the rookie instead ran a corner route to get open for Drew Brees. Now, that kind of stuff happened all the time, but it was good to see Traquan Smith understanding what was going on and making the adjustment so that he can give Drew Brees an option to be able to reach him with the ball. So that is unique for a rookie wide receiver to recognize that, then make the change, which means that he's really studying to try to do what he needs to do. Spectacular play of safety Marcus Williams. Just seems like anybody named Marcus Williams that played for the Saints is coming up big with interceptions. Marcus Williams had his 7th interception of the summer. Big time preseason for him, as he picked off a Hail Mary from Drew Brees, which he got up under it and picked the ball away. Now, Ken Crawley also made an interception, believe it or not. Must have had some gloves with some stickum on them, as he took the ball away from Tommy Lee, Jerry Lewis during 7-on-7 drills. And of course, Crawley, he's going to have a lot of chances in this upcoming season to make interceptions. If Ken Crawley could whip his head around, we done said it all preseason long and all of last year, that's something that he consistently doesn't do well, is whip his head around, locate where the ball is, and then, of course, put both his hands on the ball and make interceptions. Ken Crawley, by any account, this upcoming season with at least 5 interceptions. At best, maybe 8 interceptions. If he can get a sticky pair of gloves, or really, really the stickiest pair of gloves he can find, because he's going to get thrown at a lot, because a lot of people are not going to go at Marshawn Lattimore. They're going to go at Ken Crawley. So he's going to have to step up. Also, another good sign that we're getting closer to the regular season, of course, is defensive end Alex Okafor. He got back on the field. He had some reps that he did in replace of Marcus Davenport. And at first we see Alex Okafor is definitely the second best defensive end the Saints do have on the team outside of Cam Jordan. And he, when healthy, will start opposite of Cam. He was terrific last year playing the pass and the run for the team. Now with Davenport coming in, Davenport will provide a situational passer that will also rotate with a guy like Alex Okafor to keep those guys fresh, as the Saints will bring pass rushers in waves, as indicated. So he was back after suffering what appeared to be a significant injury early in the preseason, but he is back on the field, which is good as we get closer to the regular season. Also, Dan Arnold caught a pass, then ran down the field after being tagged down. That costs a few seconds to run off the clock. No big whoop on that. He'll learn. And then also Cam Meredith. We were so excited about Cameron Meredith coming to the Saints. The Saints signed him in replacing Willie Snead. He dropped the pass during one-on-one drills, still struggling to kind of find his way. And I just wonder in my football brain, once again, would the Saints keep an extra wide receiver because they feel like Cameron Meredith is not ready? That's a future question of the day. But outside of that, Crawley also did a good job against Mike Thomas during the same drill, winning both his reps. That's good. Wide receiver Austin Carr, who's in our spotlight today, had 2 impressive catches during the practice, including one on a deep pass that was thrown to him by Taysom Hill. And then, of course, Double D broke up a pass intended for Dan Arnold with those fantastic cover skills. So that's pretty much all that happened in the last day of camp. And then, of course, Coach Payton. We'll let Coach Payton chime in and tell you what he thought.
Well, I think one of the things we talked about going into this past game was, look, we don't want to discourage some of the things that he does very well, and yet, there's a part of the game coming to him and not pressing it each time. I thought he made some good decisions in the pocket. Tight red zone throw for a touchdown was a plus. And look, the number one objective is to move the offense, and it's not in one play. You have more than one play, and so he was better with ball security, and we got the ball in the end zone a few times, and there was a comfort level he had, and I think that second game just haven't had the first one behind him. Even with Tom the same way. Both of those guys I thought played better last week than the week prior.
Can I ask kind of crazy question? If the answer is just no, it's no. Have you ever thought of utilizing him on special teams, of utilizing him in other capacities on offense, like a Cordell Stewart type early?
No, we have. Listen, it's a good question. We've talked before about, he's big and he's athletic, and so there are a lot of things he can do. He's smart, and the key is coming up with that balance while he develops as a quarterback. And it's hard to develop as a quarterback if you're playing all your special team snaps and then working as a tight end, so it's got to be game specific, but he does provide some flexibility there.
And that's Coach Payton chiming in on his thoughts on the final day of camp. Coach Payton had a lot to throw in there. And of course, as the team fine-tunes a few things as it prepares for the final game coming up this Thursday at 7 o'clock on the NFL Network, the Saints will take on the Los Angeles Rams, and that will cap the preseason. So regular season starts next week, and football for real is back in effect. So that'll do it for the first segment. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to hit all of our other topics, our question of the day, our replies to our previous questions of the day, 3 guys on the bubble, and also our spotlight. All that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the Guy.
I'm a Saints and Pelicans fan, so the only podcast I can get my fix is the Sports Coma with Big Q. The guy's intense, funny, and they always keep it real.
Check out the Sports Coma with Big Q and the Guy.
Are you a diehard black and gold New Orleans Saints fan who wants to show everybody that your team is number one? Then go and click the link below and get all the latest Saints gear to rep your team. Now in stock on Fanatics. Ladies, men, and kids Saints jerseys, hats, t-shirts, license plates, and auto accessories, backpacks and bags, collectibles, footwear, pet accessories, tailgating and party supplies, and a whole lot more. Plus, for 24 hours only, you can receive free shipping on all orders over $29. That's right, for 24 hours, you get free shipping on all orders over $29 by simply using the code 29SHIP. So what are you waiting for? Hit the link below and rep the black and gold today. Who that?
What's up, Sports World? The PRO Media Network is on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers. So besides our regular programs like the Sports Coma with Big Q and the Guys, the Pelican Post Game Report, Rapid Fire TSC, and others, we will be expanding out and offering other content like movie, anime, and gaming reviews for your entertainment. So if you enjoy our content, please donate at our Patreon page. Also subscribe, comment, and share. And help the PRO Media Network reach 10,000 subs. Peace.
Follow the Sports Coma on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Welcome back to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. We're covering the final day in cap. In the first segment, we filled you in on the final particulars. Coach Payton chimed in. Now this segment, we're going to talk about and hit all of our topics that we need to hit, including the question of the day, the replies from the previous question of the day, and of course our bubble guys, which 3 guys are on the bubble that I put on the bubble for the Saints in the show. We'll talk about them, and then our Who That Is segment to complete thus the second portion of the show. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the question of the day we posed last show is, or will cornerback Marcus Williams, the cornerback, replace PJ Williams on the active roster, being that PJ Williams hasn't played in a while since receiving that bruise on his chest? He's been out of action, hasn't played, hasn't practiced. And then, of course, Marcus Williams has been fantastic. He played well in the last game, had 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, and he also had an interception he returned for a touchdown. He also had a pretty nifty play where he batted the ball away from the wide receiver, in which Craig Robertson picked the ball off. He said it was a bad call by the referees. It was called back because the ref said he passed interference to man. I disagree. I think he got there right at the time the ball is too close to call. I think the referee, it was a bad call. Should have been a pick 6, but they gave it back. But nevertheless, he had a splendid game in that game, and he's been playing really well. His veteran presence, and it wouldn't hurt the Saints to have another young veteran on his team. Now, remember, he played there when Double D was there. Wouldn't hurt the Saints to have a veteran behind, another young veteran behind a guy like P-Rob at the nickel. Wouldn't hurt him. We had a lot of youth in the cornerback room. Wouldn't hurt us at all to have that extra guy back, depending on how many the Saints keep. Maybe they keep 5, maybe they keep 6. Who knows? But at the end of the day, that's the question. And the reply to some of these questions are, Marvin Norman replied, can't get a fly-by-night trump a contract player's job. PJ will finish off his contract. Then if he doesn't do well, cut him. All right, we hear you, Norman. Appreciate the reply on that. Also, other replies is from Dada Saints number 1. His reply was, right now, I would say he makes it over PJ because he's available. And also Crass 4 said valid. He agreed with him. So big ups to both you gentlemen for replying to the question. Thank you very much. Sean C chiming in. I believe Williams will have a chance if he can do well in practice and have a decent game next week. But I think the Saints like productive, smart, and instinctive vets. I think you have a point, Sean C. No doubt about it, the Saints like all those guys. They got a team full of those guys. You got a great youth mix, but you got steady young veterans that are productive, that's in the prime of their careers, that can really make solid contributions, that can go in there. You don't have to worry about them not knowing anything. And it just seems like certain players are the right fit. It just seems like when they bring Marcus Williams in, is that the fact that he's speedy, he's intelligent, and he just has a niche for knowing where to be to make plays. So that's something that we definitely could use. It's a 4th cornerback, no less. Some people say that's Natrell Jamerson. Hey, we can have him in there too. PJ's not available, and I agree with that. So that's enough on the replies. Let's head on to our next question today. Remember, thanks to all those guys that sent replies in. People who didn't reply, this is your opportunity to be heard on the show as well. The new question that we're asking is, who starts at middle linebacker for the Saints in week 1? Very good question. Very good question. Now, of course, we just went over the fact that the Saints were rotating linebackers. It was Manti Te'o, who then was out, who got hurt. Then it was Double D at some point early in the season. Then it was A.J. Klein. Then the day it was Alex Anzalone. Probably tomorrow it might be Craig Robertson. Who knows? But what do you think? Tell me. Answer this question. Put it in the comment section. Once again, the Sports Coma question of the day is, who starts at middle linebacker for the Saints in week number 1? Answer the question, put it in the comment section. Remember, we read all replies to the question. I don't care how many, it could be 100 of them. We're going to go through every last one of them. So make sure you reply and be heard on the Sports Coma. Let's move on to our next segment, which is the three guys on the bubble. Of course, this is not really a hard thing to call. Of course, we're coming into the final week, and the Saints will have a certain period of time before they have to make the cuts. But when the preseason time ends and the regular season gets ready, the Saints have to trim their roster down. It's going to be a lot of tough cuts. Because a lot of guys deserve to make the team. A lot of them do deserve to make the team. Now, of course, you guys listen to the show. You'll know who I think shouldn't make the teams. Guys like Michael Ola, Josh Larebius, those guys, even Jerron Bushrod didn't show me enough during the preseason to warrant him keeping a spot over somebody like Andrew Tiller or Rick Leonard or somebody like that. Just didn't see any reason why we keeping him. And if we keep him, we keeping him on my reputation of what he did when he was here the last time around, which I don't think that should be good enough. Even though some people will say, well, we did the same thing for Jari Evans. He looked like crap in the preseason. Then when the regular season came on, he turned it on like gangbusters. That's a point. That is a point. But is Jeremiah Bushrod Jari Evans? We'll see. I don't know the answer to that question. But the three guys we talking about that's on the bubble, we're going to start with number one is wide receiver Tommy Lee, Jerry Lewis. Now, the reason why I put Tommy Lee on here is because Tommy Lee, as you can see from the previous game, the Saints gave Tommy Lee all kind of opportunities to be a wide receiver, to be a kick returner. Obviously, they didn't play Brandon Tate at all in that last game, if I'm not mistaken. I looked at the count. I ain't see him kick returning at all out there. Maybe they had him out there for some wide receiver plays or something like that, but I didn't see him kick return. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But Tommy Lee Lewis, they was trying to give an opportunity to see what he could do. To me, Brandon Tate has that job. And they have enough wide receiver depth if they choose to pull Ted Ginn Jr. out from the wide receiver room and say, okay, we're going to have you to do a little special teams work for us. I can see them doing that. They also have the ace in the hole of Alvin Kamara. They still have Boston Scott there. So all of these guys, in my opinion, are ahead of Tommy Lee Lewis, which means if he can't make the team on special teams, can he make the team as a wide receiver? The truth of the matter is, I don't think he even makes the team as a wide receiver. Guys like Austin Carr are ahead of him on the list. Even guys like Keith Kirkwood is ahead of him on the wide receiver battle. So as far as I'm concerned, he's the last guy in the wide receiver depth chart. He's the last guy on the special teams list, which means he's going to be the first guy out the door. So Tommy Lee had a good run with the Saints, but I think it is pretty much over this year. The Saints going to put it into it. Tommy Lee is out the door. Another player that will not make the active roster, probably will end up on the practice squad, is El-Kadim Muhammad. Preseason ace last year, tore it up. This season, not so much. Not so much. The last game he did okay, had a few moments in the game, but nothing like his first year. El-Kadim was totally quiet in this entire camp. He was quiet. He was quiet all the way around. They had other defensive ends that made more noise than him. And El-Kadim, I think he will get the boot. He will get cut and probably will end up on the Saints practice squad, which the Saints will do good to put him on there. So that's my take on that. And also, the time has run out on Haloi Kakaha. Kakaha was a second-round draft pick some years back. He was a defensive end coming in, kept getting hurt. It's not his fault. The guy has a non-stop motor, but he's been outplayed by guys like Jaron Elliott. He's been outplayed by even Marcus Davenport, who came in and didn't even play most of the training camp. Had injuries with his hand, had injuries with his groin, but still came in and performed better than Haloi Kakaha. Haloi Kakaha looks slower. He doesn't look as strong as he was. The same intensity, the same push, the same speed that he exhibited before is not there anymore. And I think the Saints probably going to end up cutting Kakaha because that's the first thing they usually do when you can't play your natural position, which is defensive end, which is his most natural position, is to put his hand in the ground and rush the quarterback. He's been beat out by George Johnson and all these other guys. They tried to convert you to a linebacker, which you couldn't do that well when Rob Ryan did it. To drop Kakaha back in the coverage and have him cover tight ends? No, that's not going to work. He didn't do it well in the preseason. He had flashes, nothing spectacular. And for that reason, I think Haloi Kakaha does not make the active roster this year for the New Orleans Saints. That's my number 3. That's my top 3 bubble guys. If you disagree, talk about it. Tell me about it. Do you think Tommy Lee gonna make the squad? If you do, you crazy. If you think El-Kadim Muhammad gonna make the active roster, you are crazy. And then the third test to know if you crazy, if you believe that Haloi Kakaha is going to make the team as a linebacker when Jaron Elliott is better at the position. And if you say, okay, he's a tweener guy that can play defensive end or linebacker, Jaron Elliott does both of those better than him. So you got a guy ahead of them in that hybrid role. So if you think Halui Kakaha makes a team, I won't say you're crazy, because something could happen. Perhaps they want to keep a experienced pass rusher on the team. Anything possible. But in my opinion, I think all three of those guys are definitely going to be cut, with possibly El-Kadim Muhammad ended up on the practice squad. All right, next topic. We're going to get into the Who That Is segment of the show, when we break down and spotlight players who we don't know. Now, we're going to spotlight Austin Carr, because Austin Carr had a pretty good game against the Rams in all true camp. Austin Carr is catching everything that they're throwing to him. He's like Willie Snead was when he first got here, when Marcus Colston got here that first year. Everything you was throwing in his direction, he catching. And that's Austin Carr. They knew he can do it when they got him from New England. So we're going to break down Austin Carr. 6'1", 195 pounds, 24 years old, 2 years in the NFL, out of Northwestern. Of course, he wears number 80. And of course, Austin Carr's NFL career started when he joined the Saints off of waivers from New England at the start of the regular season. He appeared in one regular season game and one playoff contest. He's a sure-handed wideout who originally was signed as an undrafted rookie out of Northwestern with New England in 2017. You know that he fits that slot role. Not very fast, but he's a guy that's very sure-handed. In 2017, in the preseason, he did lead the Patriots in receiving with 14 receptions for 153 yards with 2 touchdowns. Now, after being claimed by the Saints off of waivers at the start of the regular season, he appeared in one contest, and that was at Miami when the Saints went to London to play, which was October the 1st. And he also saw some action on offense and special teams in the NFC divisional playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, a little college information on Mr. Austin Carr is he played in 36 games at Northwestern and totaled 113 receptions for 1,649 yards and 14 touchdowns. He set a single season school record as a senior with 1,247 receiving yards and finished tied for second with 90 receptions. He tied the school record with 12 touchdowns. He was named the Richter Howard Big Ten Receiver of the Year and was a consensus first-team All-Big Ten selection. He also set a school record with a touchdown reception in 6 straight games. He majored in philosophy, which he received his bachelor's in, and graduated in May from the Kellogg School of Management with a master's in management studies. So perhaps he'll take on a role of starting his own player agency. He racked up 1,481 rushing yards with 19 touchdowns, as well as 844 receiving yards with 11 TD receptions as a senior at Benicia High School in California. He earned first team All Solano County Athletic Conference honors, as well as the SCAC and Team Most Valuable Player honors. Finished high school career as the Benicia's all-time rushing and scoring leader. He was a finalist in the California State Poetry Out Loud competition and was a school and county champion in the event. So this man loves poetry and philosophy. Might be the next Shakespeare here on the team. He donated his peripheral blood stem cells while a college junior to what turned out to be a donor suffering from non-Hodgkin lymphomas. And at a Super Bowl, he had an opportunity to meet the person he donated to for the first time. His wife, Erica, ran cross country at Northwestern. The son of a classically trained pianist. His mother, Janine, and drummer father, Evan Carr, plays piano and writes songs in their free time. This guy is a savant almost. He got a career. His parents are musicians, and he's a poet. He has a degree in philosophy, and he's won poetry contests. And then he played for the Patriots. He played in the Super Bowl. He's got a big heart. He donated his blood and cells to help a person that needed help. This man is a fantastic talent, and he has a great story. Hopefully, Mr. Austin Carr will stick around. I got a belief that I think Austin Carr will make it. I'm just going to be honest with you. Cameron Meredith looks shaky. I don't know if he's still hurt or recovering. I still see the Saints probably keeping or adding 2 more wide receivers to the 4 they have. Of course, you'll say, Q, they ain't going to keep no more than 4, maybe 5 at the most. But if they do keep 5, I'm just thinking to myself, what the top 4 are with Thomas, Ted Ginn Jr., you got Traquan Smith, and Cameron Meredith. The 5th has got to be Austin Carr. What about Keith Kirkwood? I think Austin Carr is ahead of Keith Kirkwood. If the Saints keep 6, Keith Kirkwood could be in the mix. But I just think Austin Carr would make the team. because of the obvious fact that the kid just catches everything. And you need a guy like that, plus obviously the Cameron Meredith situation. I just don't like how he looks. If they do keep another receiver, it would be because of that, because all the rest of the wide receivers are doing just fine. That'll do it on Austin Carr. Let's move on to defensive lineman Woodrow Hamilton. Of course, Woody Hamilton was on the Saints last year. He's a 6'3", 315-pound defensive lineman. Played at Ole Miss, 2 years in the NFL. This is a former undrafted free agent who saw action as a rookie in 2016 for the Super Bowl champion Patriots. He spent the second half of the 2017 campaign on the Saints practice squad before being elevated to the active roster for the final playoff game. Now he's from DeRide, Mississippi. He was signed to the Saints 53 roster back in January of this year for the divisional playoff matchup with the Vikings. He made 3 tackles, 2 of them solo in that game. In 2016, he began the season on the Patriots practice squad before adding to their 53-man roster. He appeared in 2 games with 1 start and made 3 tackles. He was inactive for the 8 games before being released on December the 21st and was added to the practice squad on December 23rd, when he spent the rest of the season. He made his NFL debut and first NFL start in a win against Cleveland back in October 9th of last year while recording 2 tackles. In college, like I said, he was at Ole Miss. He played 47 games with 25 starts at nose tackle. He finished with 83 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 pass defense at the University of Mississippi, pretty much Ole Miss. And from 2012 to 2015, he started all 12 games as a senior, total 29 tackles and 1 sack. As a junior in 2014, he played every game with 2 starts and tallied 14 tackles and a half a sack for a loss. As a sophomore in 2013, he played every game with 9 starts, finished the year with 31 tackles and a tackle and a half for loss and 1 sack and a pass breakup. He earned his bachelor's degree in general studies in 2015. And of course, a super prep all-region pick and rated number 18 player in Mississippi. He was named to the Clarion Ledger's top 25 recruits list. He's a first-team Class A All-State Mississippi Association of Coaches voted as a senior and rated the state's number 19 player by Rivals.com. He ranked number 84 defensive tackle in the nation. He posted 65 tackles, 12 of them for losses, 6 sacks, and 2 block punts as a senior. He's a high school teammate of Jacksonville wide receiver Dante Moncrief. Now that's a little information on Woodrow Hamilton. Of course, Saints are high on Woodrow Hamilton, another guy the Saints plucked from the Patriots along with Austin Carr. Woody Hamilton's very interesting because we haven't been hearing too much about Woody Hamilton this year, even though I know the Saints are high on him. He was actually on the team's active roster last year. He played very well against the Vikings. So the question is, he is a nose tackle. He would be playing basically behind Tyler Davison, but I just think Devereaux Lawrence is ahead of him on that chart. The only question is what happens behind him. Of course, you already know you got 3 that's going to stay in the interior line. You got Sheldon Rankins, you got David Onyemata, you got Tyler Davison, and of course Devereaux Lawrence is there, and of course you got Mitchell Lowen. So that is the 5 interior linemen, but that I think the Saints going to keep. I don't think they're going to keep any extra people. Woody Hamilton could probably find his way back on the practice squad, but Devereaux Lawrence outplayed him, and also Mitchell Lowen is healthy. But is Woody Hamilton ahead of Jay Bromley? Now, Bromley's a veteran. The Saints could say, well, we can go with a vet because he's been there and done that, and Hamilton's not that experienced versus a guy like Jay Bromley, like they did with Tony McDaniel last year when they pulled him off from the free agency and brought him in to play a key role to help the Saints interior. I think the Saints this year, that's a big question. I think either way, Hamilton probably ends up on the practice squads. That's my opinion. But that'll do it for the show. Thank you guys for listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys today. As always, if you enjoyed the show, please go to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/the PRO Media Network. Make a donation, one-time donation, or you can sign up to be a monthly contributor. And also you can join our social media pages at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The links are in the description section. If you're a person that always want to know all the latest Saints or Pelicans or boxing news or what have you, sign up for our Facebook or Twitter pages. We're constantly, every day, blasting out all football, basketball, boxing articles on the Saints, the Pelicans, what have you. If you're interested in a person that got to go search for it, you don't have to search no more. Just sign up to the social media pages of the Sports Coma and we get those updates all the time. Thank you for listening today to the Sports Coma. Podcast 221. From me and the crew, peace.
Forget ESPN or Fox. Get straight sports talk from the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys.
Thank you for listening to the Pro Media Network, who provides hours and hours of free edutainment to you and yours. If you are benefiting positively from our content, please donate to help us grow our platform by going to www.patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. That's www.patreon.com/the Pro Media Network, and support the true independent artists.
What's up, sports world? This Big Q from the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. Talking to you about the website, theposhlifestyle.com. That's right, poshlifestyle.com. A great website where you can get great products at great prices. They sell organic herbs, vitamins, supplements, water filters for your home, EMF and cell phone radiation protection, healing magnetics and healing crystals, personal protection devices like cell phones, stun guns, and mace sprays, organic deodorants, shampoos, soaps, toothpaste, and more. They also sell 10A grade Brazilian hair. 10A music is available now. All kind of the latest downloadable mixtapes. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to theposhlifestyle.com. That's the Posh Lifestyle, life spelled with a Y, LYFE style.com. Put in the Sports Coma for the 10% discount on your purchase. It's a win-win. So get your mind and body right with the Posh Lifestyle.
In today's world, children are bombarded with negativity on television, online, and at school. Our kids need to have a positive outlook on life and the world around them. I want to share with you a valuable resource you can use to bring positivity into your child's life. It's the new book, 101 Powerful Children Affirmations, a guide to positive child self-image, from author and dad, G.J. Barabino. This is a simple guide loaded with wonderful and inspirational affirmations designed to uplift young people's spirits. This positive and powerful children affirmational is chock full and loaded with wonderful inspirational sayings that will lift your child's self-image to whole new levels through the awesome power of spoken word. 101 Powerful Children Affirmations, a guide to positive child self-image, from author and dad G.J. Barabino. Available on Amazon. Order a copy for yourself, your child's teachers, or anyone you know with children. 101 Powerful Children Affirmations, a guide to positive child self-image. Order your copy today.